Hi everyone, and welcome to a Lazy KH video. I want to talk about this tweet announcement that YouTube released a few days ago, which basically says they're considering removing the public visible dislike count on YouTube videos. And yes, I realize I'm about a week late to this party, but I still have some thoughts I want to say. And also, I realize that me, and probably the vast majority of you viewers, are on the same page that we don't want the dislike count to go private. We do want the general public to be able to see it. I mean, you might disagree, and if you do, feel free to comment down below. But I realize I'm kind of preaching to the choir, but I still feel like I have some thoughts about why this is a bad decision that I wanted to articulate. So I guess this sentence I have here is sort of, oh, I don't want to use big words, but like the thesis, not thesis, just the main idea. Like the main idea is dislikes provide discouragement without escalation. And what I mean by that is, imagine you have an equilibrium down the middle. This will make sense in a little bit. And imagine you have person A on the left and person B on the right. And maybe the thing we're measuring here, oh my god, my microphone's too close. We're not really measuring a person, but it's more their ego slash, I don't know, their reputation or whatever. And we start in the middle because nobody has posted anything yet. Let's say person A makes some artwork or something, like a picture of a stick figure, and says, "Look at my art." And then person B says, "You know, your artwork looks kind of ugly." What I would say that looks like is you kind of treading a little bit into person A's ego. And sure, you could say, hey, that's valid criticism, and it's just a somewhat nasty comment. It's not really that bad. But in a way, B is sort of kind of encroaching on A's territory a little bit. And A could either choose to do nothing and just go back to the mean like that, or they could try to take the offensive and sort of respond by saying something else a little nasty. And I think that's just a natural human response, you know, tit for tat. Like if you gouge out my eyeball, I'm gonna gouge out your eyeball or something. So A might say something like, well, your grammar's kind of nasty, or your profile picture looks really gross or whatever. And if you were to like compare the ratio that the first guy was out, let's say it's like 1 unit, and if this was also 1 unit, then we would have an escalation rate of like times 1. And what I wanted to point out is that if you have an escalation of times 1, then it's just going to go back and forth forever, right? They'll keep finding other things to insult each other about, with the main reasoning being, well, that person said something mean to me, and I don't want to be the one to like take the punches without being able to fight back. So it'll just go on forever. And I know that examples of this have existed in the real world of like families, rival families in Europe who sort of like will kill members of the other family because like, you know, their members got killed by that family, and it just stretches back generations. It's like a centuries-long feud. So that's like a bigger example of it. But what I wanted to point out is that if the escalation is something like 1.5 or something, then we get something really bad because, you know, B will say a nasty comment like, your art sucks or something. And then person A might do something that's, you know, trying to defend themselves from the nasty comment, but they might step too far, and maybe they'll stalk them on Facebook and like tell their mom, and then person A will be like, I don't know, hey, B's mom, are you raising your son? I don't know. This is kind of long, but you get the idea. To act like this, like the idea is they did something that was not proportionate to the crime, and now we're escalating. And then maybe like B will say like, oh well, if you're gonna snoop on me, I'm gonna find your home address and then leak it, and then you get more and more extreme. And basically, you just know that like this can lead to bad stuff, and like that's not how arguments resolve. Okay, I gotta get through this fast because I don't want to talk forever. Oh shoot, that's the end of the undo history in Paint. I mean, ideally, the way you resolve things is by having the escalation rate like under 1. If it's like 0.5, then maybe person A can say something to defend themselves like, hey, you know, I'm just a beginning artist and I wish you wouldn't say it's nasty without giving me tips on how to improve. You know, that will sort of encroach on B's ego much less than it encroaches on A's, and then you sort of like move slowly towards the middle again, and then things calm back down. And that's what you want. Okay. So the reason this all comes back to dislikes is because if you have a platform without public dislikes, such as Twitter, then let's say you post some artwork and you get a nasty comment, and you want to discourage that from happening in the future in any way. If you were to leave a dislike, okay, let me just put their comment again. Your art sucks. Then you can sort of like subtly tell B, hey, you should stop doing that. I would appreciate if you stopped, without escalating. And, you know, nobody feels the obligation to respond to a dislike. So if you get a dislike, then you might just notice like, oh, in general the public doesn't condone what I did. So it will like immediately go back to the middle and then nothing later will happen. But on platforms that don't have a public dislike feature, which would be something like Twitter or TikTok or YouTube in the comments, because YouTube videos themselves do have the dislikes public, but comments don't. I find that if you get a hate comment and you want to dissuade it, you have no choice but to reply. And if you have no choice but to reply, it's like, imagine the amount that A would retaliate to B goes out to here with a simple dislike. So this would be dislike. Just by the nature of a text reply, exposing more of your personal feelings than a dislike, and also being more of a conversational format, it's already going to be greater in scale to the dislike, like the text reply. And unlike a dislike, when B gets a text reply, they feel obligated to respond because now we're in a conversation. And so like, I guess a good way of kind of concisely wrapping up what I'm saying here is, let's say you do something on the internet that people didn't like, and you didn't realize that people were going to hate it. So you wake up in bed. Okay, I gotta draw someone waking up in bed. Yawn. He's stretching because everyone stretches like this. This is just the way it works. I gotta draw the pillow because I want his head to be comfy. Anyway, so you did something bad on the internet. Maybe you posted a cringy joke or something. If you wake up to, let's say, 600 likes and then 6,000 dislikes, that feels pretty bad. And you sort of can interpret that however you want and move on. But you don't respond to this because like they didn't say anything. But if you wake up on Twitter to 600 likes and 6,000 replies, like this is the same idea of getting ratioed, right? But now you actually have the material to dive into and read what they're saying. And now you feel obligated to respond. And I think that's bad because what most people just want to do is just discourage you. They don't want to keep riling you up. And I think that's what dislikes are good for. Let's see if there's anything else I was going to say. Well, okay, I guess the reason I listed these things here, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube comments, is because I think it's very common to see fights that are just going back and forth between two people in those platforms, just like boom, 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 boom. And no one's really learning anything. No one is understanding the other person's perspective because, you know, they're just trying to defend their own turf in the same way that like every time person A, it comes on the left side, you have to at least push it back to the line, but why not just go further? So yeah, that's why I think that we should keep having dislikes. Okay, let me just delete everything here. Now, one counter argument is when you have public dislikes, like bad actors can like dislike swarm. I don't know if that's a verb. Like, I don't know, good people / content. I haven't really thought this through. And I guess like the general idea is like, you know, if you want to remove negativity on the site of YouTube, it just sounds like dislikes are only negative. So how can you reduce negativity by having a dislike feature? Well, I don't think this happens very often. Like you could probably find some instances, but YouTube videos nowadays have public dislikes and Twitter threads don't. And like, how often do you see bad actors sending dislike swarms to videos that don't deserve them versus how often do you see like Twitter fights back and forth? I would say you see a lot more of the latter. But even if this were to happen, it's not that bad because of the reasons I mentioned earlier. You see 6,000 dislikes and it doesn't even mean anything. So I would say that CCA is 6,000 dislikes doesn't hurt as much as 6,000 I don't know, nasty replies. I guess the most important thing is and doesn't elicit, or it doesn't elicit you to respond. You to respond. And I guess that's all I really wanted to say. I think if I wanted to make my arguments better, then I would like script this and like organize my thoughts a little better. But I think you guys all pretty much agree with me. Well, there's one more thing I wanted to say. Well, first of all, this is unrelated, but in my last Lazy KH video, I talked about how this video, the code that was updating the thumbnail automatically every 10 minutes, was on my laptop, which broke. It got a blue screen of death. Well, I downloaded the backed up hard drive onto my desktop computer. I ran the same code, and if you look really, really closely, you can see that's updating again. Okay, where is it? Where are you? So this thumbnail, you can see in the corner, it says 2021, April 9th, 7 a.m. UTC. So you know that it's working in the modern era again. So if you guys watching right now want a shot at this video's thumbnail, go comment on it right now because it's up and running again for the first time in 3 months. And you can see that like the current thumbnail holder, oh, every time I roll over it, it actually autoplays, so that's not cool. The current record holder only has 1 like, so it's not even that hard to get the top spot. So I think you guys should really try it. Yeah, so okay, those are all my thoughts. I guess like every other argument has already probably been said. You know, one of them is if you're an artist and you want to gauge how well people like something or don't like something, you can look at the ratio and learn to adjust and all that. And yeah, if I have any more thoughts, I'll add them later. But I think the new thing I wanted to add to the kind of discussion table was that idea of the 2 egos and of like bouncing back and forth. Because I just see that happening way too much, and I think that like toxic online communities can arise from that. I personally think that Twitter would benefit if it had a dislike feature. I know that sounds mean, and I know that like they actually considered it. Wasn't there like a news article just a couple months ago? Twitter considers adding dislike. Because like imagine you are a troll who wants to stir up drama. Yeah, this was only from 4 months ago. Twitter reportedly considering adding a dislike button. I think they should do it. Because imagine you're a troll, or maybe not even like a full-on troll, but just like someone a rabble rouser, and you wanted to post a video saying, Carrie is the scum of the earth and deserves to die, or something horrible like that. You would feel a lot more comfortable doing that if you knew there was no dislike button, and you knew that like when you posted something awful, if 10,000 people hated it but 100 people liked it and you got 100 likes, you could still kind of snarkily claim, well, I have 100 fans, so I should still be able to do this. So I think if we want to dissuade that sort of nasty behavior, we got to make it very clear that those 10,000 people are there, are visible, and greatly outnumber the fans. And like even the sort of introverted people exist. Because like people like me rarely get involved in like discussions. So I think, you know, since the loud voices will be heard the most, there needs to be a way to just let the reasonable people know that quiet supporters are out there who just don't want to get involved, you know? The dislike button is a way for you to provide discouragement to that behavior without getting yourself involved either. So without escalation, actually I should add to that. And without, okay, the dislikes provide discouragement without escalation and without the dislikers. I guess getting involved is too generic of a statement. I mean, sort of having their username and their public comment or tweet or whatever now being public grounds for other people and other parties to mock and all that. But I'll just write that for now because this is like a rough draft. Rough draft. You know, like when I see a nasty comment or like a hate comment on one of my videos, I know the answer is never feed the trolls. So I rarely do. But like it still kind of riles me up a little bit, and I still would like to dissuade that behavior without just outright telling them that I gave them attention, you know? Because they don't know who disliked. Okay, I'm gonna end this video now. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.